Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. The man next to me is Senior Bowl Case. Big Case dog in the house. Follow me, Casey_Knnamon. What's going on? Another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. Good to see you filing into the chat. Late again. Sorry, fumble. We were late. Apologies. Running behind. Lots to do.
I promise we'll be worth the
there.
wait.
Fumble. Look at that. He's pretty accurate. Did you see that?
Yeah. I don't know how he knew, but he knew.
I don't know how he knew it.
Didn't you have a bun? Is it technically a sandwich if it didn't have a bun?
It's not a sandwich. No. No bun, no sandwich. OG Philly, what's up, man? Breaking news, causing all kinds of ruckus with your connections that you've put together all over the internet. I've seen good on you, Philly. Good job. And everybody else filing into the chat. Of course, we will talk about that as well, Philly. So thanks for the topic tonight. And Jackson, world's fastest MC. Appreciate you guys all being here. If you're watching over on X, hop on over. You really did start something. That is for sure. Saw it talked about on UCSS today. Nobody's giving you credit either, Philly. Unfortunately. We'll give you credit here for sure. I know where it started.
Picture that Pepe Silva meme from Always Sunny, where Charlie's got all the boards with all the strings behind him.
Yep.
That's what I pictured.
Smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. Yep. Figured it
out. What's going on, Big Case dog? Big Senior Bowl Case. You've been diving into the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, man. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing of the draft cycle because the combine's not football. There's a couple football elements, but for the most part, it's just, the physical testing stuff. I like practice. I like watching practice. And that's something when you quit playing football at first, you're like, I just missed the games. You get far enough away from it, you miss practice. And I miss watching, especially small school guys get to come up and really test themselves. That's like one of my favorite things to watch. And for the record, it was not a spam sandwich. It will not be a spam sandwich. I'm not losing that bet.
You don't think you're losing that bet?
No.
I think you've already lost that bet, my friend.
No, man. I watched him. I watched him.
I know you watched him, but I've seen a lot of people have him get his QB2 now.
I need names. I need, other than NFL rookie watch and Mary Kay Cabot, I need names.
Pete Smith.
I want to see the breakdown, Pete, because I don't. And
he said QB2.
Is he the 60th ranked player at QB2? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're talking quarterbacks, bro. I'm looking at PFF's rankings of the Senior Bowl quarterbacks. Number 1, Jackson Dart.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Trey also has him listed as the 11th overall quarterback. The same guy who made those rankings. Just saying.
Explain that to me.
I don't know what to tell. He's not high on him. He's not.
What do you mean? He has him number 1 right here.
The Senior Bowl quarterbacks.
Okay. That included Milroe and Dylan good. Gabriel, who everybody was gushing over the day one.
Who was?
A bunch of people were saying he was throwing heaters left and right all over the field.
Yeah. Look, none of my questions are physical. He's got an arm. He's got physical talents. I'm not.
About Dart?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your questions?
It's between his ears, man. It's processing. It's taking snaps under center, which he can't do. Like, that's a problem, man. That's a problem. He fumbled a ton of balls. He fumbled shotgun snaps.
You don't think that they can teach him between now and week 1 to take snaps under center?
Well, he hasn't learned the first 20-some years of his life. So
no quarterbacks have, Casey.
Well, he's been out of there. He didn't just quit playing. Ole Miss has been done for a minute.
Okay,
I'm sure he's been working today. He didn't just start taking him at the Senior Bowl. Do you think that was the first time he tried to take a snap under center?
All right. How many times did he fumble the ball today?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't counting. It was happening. And it was causing him to be late out of breaks. And it wasn't just him. Quarterbacks in general have an issue with it. So I'll admit that it's a widespread thing because everyone plays out the shotgun. But if you're talking about specifically playing for the Cleveland Browns, taking a snap under center is going to need to happen.
Okay. I'm not even saying he's going to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are, bud, and there is a dart hive that is forming. MC knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and like I don't have a problem with exploring him through this process.
No, you have to. Jesus, no, I'm not knocking any quarterback off the board.
But like to say that he can't play from under center when these guys have just started doing this a couple months ago, probably the first time in their lives. Nobody plays under center in high school or college anymore.
I know. I'm admitting that.
So this is the first time they're ever doing it. In preparation up to this, you don't think he can do it? You don't think he can take a snap?
Bro. I'm saying he can't right now. Today, he's having issues with it for sure. It isn't coming natural to him.
How did he look today?
Hit and miss. I mean, he's got he made the best throw of the day, bar none. Wasn't even caught, but he made an excellent throw. He's got the physical tools, man. But can he process? Can he get from one read to two reads to three reads? Can he get to the backside dig? Because those are my issues. Because he was in Lane Kiffin's offense. Lane Kiffin will hold your hand. Which, don't get me wrong, whoever team he goes to, they might be willing to do the same thing for a while. But can he do it on his own? Can he learn to? Can he be an elite processor? He wasn't in college. Can he do it at the next level? Hard to say.
He wasn't in college. I've seen him do it in college. We were watching the Georgia game. Kirk Benkert film breakdown. I think he played right in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did it. He did the year before last against Georgia. He had a hell of a game.
Yeah. And I mean, he was breaking him down, going left to right across the field on his, projections, looking off safeties. I mean, and he throws the ball so effortlessly.
Yeah, he's got a nice release. You talked about it earlier. It's compact. Like I'm not faulting his physical gifts, but I'm telling you right now, you watch more film, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see the consistent processing. I promise you. He's first read and go a lot.
Okay. I mean, that was in Kiffin's offense, right? So.
Yeah, but he has to prove he can operate an NFL offense, which isn't Kiffin's off. Kiffin's not. Kiffin's trying to win games. He ain't worried about developing pro-style quarterbacks, which that's college. That's what college does to kids.
Yeah. So, I mean, so how do we know he can't then?
Who said he can't? I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying he has to prove it. I'm saying that's a big thing he's got to prove. And he's going to get to do that in meeting rooms and on boards. He's going to get brought into these team meetings, and that's where he's going to have to prove that he can decipher. He can regurgitate what he's and understand terminology and be quick with it. You know what I mean? That's a huge job for a quarterback.
Do you think that as far as our bet goes, just for talking about it, not for betting reasons, you don't think he'll go in the first round?
As of right now, I don't see a first round quarterback. No,
I don't see a first round quarterback in this draft. Maybe Cam.
I'm saying Cam is. I'm saying Cam.
Okay, I'm saying
Cam is a first round quarterback.
But like, just because he's not, you look at him and don't see a first round quarterback, that doesn't necessarily mean that he won't go in the first round.
No, I know, I understand, but what am I evaluating it on? What other people are thinking or what I think?
This draft.
I don't think he's a first round quarterback. That's
this draft.
I'm doing it on my evaluation of what I think he is. Last year he had been last year he might have been day 3.
It's gonna hurt you to lose this bet like that, and you're so bold on it too.
I didn't know. I didn't make the bet because, look, man, I made it for fun, not because I'm willing to die on hills. I'm just saying when I look at him and what he brings to the table, I don't see special.
You said you have no physical questions about him.
Yeah, I didn't say he's elite. I'm like, he can sling. He can sling. He's got good movement skills. He's a good athlete.
There's so what are we talking about then? And so you're talking about tools between his ears, and can he play under center?
And processing, yeah, it's processing a big one for me.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't really had a chance to prove that yet.
Okay, So you're banking that he can, and I'm banking that it's going to be slower.
I'm not even saying that he can. I'm just saying that people will like him enough to take him in the first round because teams are thirsty for a quarterback.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. Teams are thirsty for a quarterback.
And teams will say, this kid can sling it, and I like what he has, and we can work with what he has, and they'll come up and get him.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
I know.
All right.
I know.
I know you know. Calmer than you are. This is, let's go. Day 2 standouts at the Senior Bowl, case. Since you dove into this, let's talk about it. Will Lampkin.
Oh, my God. Can we talk about him?
Talk about him.
Dude is 5'10", 270 pounds.
Yeah.
And is housing people. He's out there playing with crazy leverage, so tenacious, standing up 340-pound dudes. You don't see it. You just don't see it at that size, at 5'10" with 31 and whatever inch arms. You know what I mean? Like, he's not a big dude. When he's out there, it looks like it's like, oh, that's cool. They're doing like they're letting a junior high kid play with him. And then he gets into it, man. And he's not losing reps. And he's holding up. It's super impressive for me to watch. And it makes me, this is the thing that's cool about the Senior Bowl is you see guys that you didn't see during the season. I haven't looked at any North Carolina tape. Now I'm going to. Did you do this week in, week out, and I didn't know it? At 5'10", 270 pounds. You know, like, and he got reps at guard and stuff, but I see it, if he's going to play in the league, he's going to be a center. Just because, and I was asked this last night in the chat by MC, like, can he play guard? He could play guard, but I don't want my guard. I don't want a 5'10" dude standing across from Cam Hayward. It doesn't, the math doesn't work for me. At center, you can help out. He's got good movement skills, you know, like we thought like Nick Harris was undersized. Like, this is a serious undersized dude. And he was a wrestler in high school, and you can tell his ability to use leverage is outstanding. Is probably one of the better stories in the Senior Bowl this week.
Yeah. My question is, despite that, on Sunday, does it translate?
Probably not. He's 5'10", 270. It's a feel-good story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, could he be a reserve? Maybe. I don't know. Is he going to be on a practice squad? Probably, because he's a try-hard. And you know what I mean? Like, but as far as actually being a starter in the league, no.
I mean, if he makes it, you know, to be a starter in the league, what a great story, though. You said he wins with leverage, footwork, hand placement, stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to technically be flawless to play in the league at that size. But he competed well, man, all 3 days, especially day 2 is where he really stood out. He had really good reps today, but there were actually several guys that don't play center got opportunities to play center at the Senior Bowl and looked really well, looked good doing it.
TCU wide receiver Jack, is it Beach?
Look, man, I was told Betch, but I heard them say Besh several times. I'm going to keep rolling with Betch, and that was one of my draft crushes going into this. Man, that's
so. Did he impress?
Yeah. But they kept the things that I think he does well. Like when you watch the tape from the slot, he's a monster. But they kept putting him outside. He kept taking reps outside. And whenever they were doing one-on-one opportunities, he kept like trying to run like fades from the outside. And I think he's going to live in this slot as a power slot. But he's not overly big. He just has such quick feet, and he's tough as shit, man.
6'1", 212. Not bad.
Yeah. He's quicker than he is fast. He's not going. I don't think he's going to blow people away with a 40. But when you watch him move in the short area, the short area quickness is outstanding, and he's tough.
Yeah,
he got lit up today and dropped one, but he came right back and they kept putting him on the best player. Like when they would do, we should probably talk about Bubba Ventrone. Yeah. At the end of every practice, he was like MCing and calling people out for like one-on-ones.
I saw it. I saw it.
Yeah, dude. Like he kept doing it, and Betch was the guy who always got opportunities. Upton Stout was the guy they had him going against. But they did it on the outside, and I see both those dudes living in the interior at the next level. So I wish we would have got more opportunity to see him do that.
Ventrone's got some pipes on him, huh?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Dude, he was that was pretty sweet, him doing that. That was awesome. I enjoyed that.
The practices were so different. The national team, you would see like it was more wild. Like there was a lot more noise, a lot more ruckus. But Bubba's team, they went about their business a little differently. Um,
Yeah.
it was more of a controlled environment, but they'd get rowdy at the very end, like when they would do the one-on-ones.
Interesting. All right. Um, let me ask about a couple more guys here I wrote down, okay?
Yeah.
Obviously I got to ask you about Mike Green cuz he had the highlight of
The
the
rep.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, him destroying, was that Zabel he destroyed?
No. Zabel didn't lose a rep all
No,
week. It was Josh Connerly.
It was Connerly from
Josh
Oregon.
Connerly got, and they ran it back the next rep, and Connerly held his own, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. It was viral already.
It was already viral.
Here's what I'll say. They both had questions going into it. Obviously, Green plays at a smaller school, didn't see the elite level competition. How's he going to do against these bigger offensive tackles with better movement skills? And, because he's a speed guy, can he play with a little bit of power? And Connerly's whole question was, he's an elite athlete, great movement skills. Can you handle the power?
Yeah.
Buddy, he went straight through his chest. I mean, it was sudden and it was violent, man. It was
Mike Green, not just that rep, from when some of the highlights that I saw and some of the reps I saw, he is bigger than I thought, and he plays violently.
Yes, yeah, but he does the other stuff too. He can bend. He can bend. He can go where he can run the hoop. He can get around the edge, take tight corners, not lose his agility. Like,
he's a
very impressive.
Pick,
so
right?
Impressive that he shut it down after the second practice.
Yeah, he's a first-round
pick. He didn't need to practice today. His stock's up. I think he probably cemented himself as a first rounder.
Yeah,
probably edge 3 or 4 now. That's good work out of him.
Yeah, really good work. Shamar Stewart.
Dude's physical and mean. Yeah, man. Yeah, he's physical.
You like him?
A&M should have had 3 guys. They should have Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, and Nick Scourton. Turner ended up having a broken leg. Like they found like a fracture in his leg, so he couldn't compete. Scourton declined. So I was hoping to see all 3. Shamar Stewart's an interesting case because this is a guy who only had like a sack and a half last year. You know what I mean? He didn't have crazy production, but when you see him play, you see, and it's not bendy, but it's explosive and it's rough. He plays super violent. 6'5", 281. He's someone that, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes in this because you see the physicality, and he is an NFL starting caliber defensive end. Period.
Yeah.
But with the lack of production and just see where he falls in the class, he'll probably go later in the first round, maybe beginning of the second, and someone's going to get a stud. And if you go late in the first round, he's probably going to a good team. That's probably not a good thing for everyone else.
Yeah, probably the Eagles or something.
Yeah. Jesus, you just breathed into existence.
I know, like they need more defensive tackles and edges. Philly saying, sign me up for Zabel. Are you in that same?
Well, I mean, if you can land him, but I think talk about of all the prospects, he probably made himself the most money coming into this. Don't get me wrong, North Dakota State's a factory. They keep sending offensive linemen to the league.
Yeah.
But it's for him to get there, and he's left tackle all year. He's played at other spots, but left tackle all year this year. He gets there and played wherever. He took the most reps of anybody. He just, every time he looked up for a one-on-one, Gray Zabel's involved because he's moving from both guard spots, playing center, and played center flawlessly. I mean, for someone who doesn't do it, you know what I mean? Just to be able to look so natural, such a good mover, physical. You can tell he's taken to technique because it looks the same every time. His teach tape. That kid made himself a ton of money this week.
Good stuff. I know that, like, I think part of this process, and you can tell me what you think because you're more into this film, but like the wide receiver corner stuff is sometimes tough to evaluate in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, the corners are in a no-win situation most times.
Yeah. PFF has Louisville corner Quincy Riley as somebody that bounced back on day 2. That was impressive.
Did. Yeah. Rainsall, Riley, Azare Thomas is someone I was very impressed with. He had some, because they kept putting him on like Tez Johnson at first, and Azare's a big man. and Tez is 156 pounds and might compete for the fastest 40 time when we get to the combine. I mean, he's stupid fast. And so, but then he settled down and he got into it. And then when they would actually go live in one-on-one drills or 7-on-7s, it showed up. Big physical corner. But man, like, look, when you're a receiver going against their DB in these drills, the whole field's open to you in most of these one-on-ones.
Yeah.
That's for a defensive back. That's tough. That's tough to cover.
Yeah. How do you win there? Yeah, that's brutal. Who are your favorite guys besides some of these, or anybody that really surprised you, jumped out to you over the 3 days or in day 3? Anybody that you were like, oh man, this guy is going to go, undervalued or whatever?
Well, I wrote about him. I wrote the tight ends up, and I'll say 2 of them. That there were 3 of the 4 that competed. Gunnar Helm held out, which I get. You play the national, you made it far into the playoffs. His stock's as high as is probably going to get. But Elijah Arroyo from Miami, he was someone that I was high on going into it.
Stud. Only
1 year production in college. He had an ACL injury in his sophomore year, 4 games in. It caused him to miss up to the next 7 games of his, well, ended up being his true sophomore year because of the red shirt. So 1 year production with Cam Ward. But you got to see it. He's the only tight end, in my opinion, that has breakaway speed. And he was clocked at 21.8 miles an hour this year. For someone who weighs 250 pounds, that's nuts, man. He's crazy good movement skills, 6'4". He can break you off. He's a good route runner. He's a willing blocker. Obviously, any tight end that comes in the league going to be an unfinished product as a blocker if you're a receiver in college, because you're not going to be asked to do that a ton. So he could do the H-back stuff. He can split out, play big slot, but he can get on the inline. He can get dirty. Like but he's also someone that I thought would be in our range, maybe 3rd round, maybe 4th round. Not now. Cat's out of the bag. You did that in front of too many people. But some people might be turned off by the only 1 year production. But when you see what he's able to do in person, and the fact that he did weigh in at 251 and he wasn't slow, you might think, oh, is he bulking up or something? And the movement skills did not hurt if he was, because they listed him during the year at 240 in Miami's program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but dude, he's a stud.
Is he tight end 3 now?
He's definitely in competition with it. Gunnar Helm's still probably going to be up there because Gunnar Helm's going to be a safe bet. He's going to be a plug and play. He's a little older of a prospect, but Arroyo will be 22 for the breadth of his rookie year, so he's still decently young. Also, Mason Taylor, he's going to compete for that as well. He's Jason Taylor's son. He's a little bigger of a frame, not the same kind of mover as Arroyo is, but crazy catch radius, understands spatial awareness really well, finds voids. He's very quarterback friendly, and he can also do the dirty stuff as a blocker. I would say that the tight end that I anticipated to make these moves to kind of is Fannin. I thought Fannin would make a bigger impact at the Senior Bowl than he ultimately did. He played well. I'm not saying he played bad. He didn't make the jump that Arroyo did. He didn't flash in that same kind of way. Yeah.
He's kind of a do-it-all, isn't he?
Yeah, Fannin? Yeah. Well, he's only like 234, something like that. So, but it's different. Like what he offers you is something that the other tight ends can't offer. You can't line the other tight ends up at running back next to the quarterback and shotgun. He can just do more in that way. And if you have a creative play caller, if you have a real creative OC, Fannin can change everything for you. Harold can change the playbook because he can just do more. But is he ever going to be that get down and dirty inline blocker at that weight? Probably not. It's not for lack of effort. He's a willing dude to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's going to be in a league where you're constantly looking for mismatches. If you can get Fannin on your team, that's a no-brainer because you can just do a ton of stuff with him.
Yeah. For certain whatever offensive fits, right? Like, not all offenses are going to be able to utilize him.
He can catch in traffic. He had 4 rushing touchdowns as a freshman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He just can do more. So if you value that, he can be a special player in the right type of offense for sure.
Wonderful stuff. Well covered. Make sure you go read Casey's Senior Bowl breakdowns over at the theobr.com. Some other stuff from the Senior Bowl. All right, so Milroe's, hand size. Pete had called me out about us making a big deal about Kenny Pickett's hand size.
It's
The
hilarious.
picture,
The picture makes it worth
I
it.
should have worn the T-shirt tonight, to be honest. With all this Milroe hand size talk, small hands, big dreams for Milroe now at 8.68, still bigger than Pickett.
Yeah.
But so he does that take him off your board?
No, I'm not going to. We're not in a position where we can just be eliminating any quarterback, including Jackson Dart, I'm not taking anyone off the board just for one thing by itself. But his small hands explain a couple things.
They do.
There's some inaccuracies, some fumbles. Today he had one where he was in the pocket, took a little bit of a hit, still had the ball in his hands, and it just squirted out. I was like,
yep,
having a bigger hand would help in that instance.
He had 14 fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
But as did Cam. We haven't seen his hand size yet.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, he was supposed to be at the Senior Bowl. He was an opt-out.
Yeah. So we'll see all that stuff at the combine. But, the Milroe thing for me, I got to admit, I was intrigued, but I think kind of that it does sour me a little because of the weather, the turnovers.
Yeah.
And he did not play well this week, did he?
No. Now, you can tell that he's kind of working on footwork, but it's still a work in progress, and it looks disjointed, leading to inaccuracies and stuff. His deep ball is still beautiful.
Yeah.
There's certain, but there's that's not all the NFL is. It's not check downs and go balls for everyone. So now his legs still give him a higher floor because that's something you're not really looking at the Senior Bowl. They're not tucking it and running it and showing how dangerous they can be with their legs, which is a big part of his game, especially early in his career. And maybe he can develop the other things. He's a crazy good student. He won the academic Heisman, so he's got a capacity to learn. But
he's a great kid.
Yeah.
His interviews were good. Publicly, I'm sure he interviews well with teams. Now, I don't know. They're going to ask him to go to the whiteboard, and that's going to be to your point. And same with Dart. Anybody else worth mentioning besides Dart and Milroe, quarterback-wise at the Senior Bowl?
No, I mean, nothing of significance. Hennigan from Memphis, he had some good reps. There's some moments, but overall, no, it was pretty meh from everyone. There was you don't walk away blown away with any of their performances.
It's hard. They don't have chemistry with their receivers.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird.
Same thing that happens at the Senior Bowl, though. That's the reason these guys all opt out of these things and just do the private workouts, because you can have everything scripted with guys you're comfortable with. It's the reason I always give props to guys who choose to throw at the combine.
Yeah.
Because you're working with everyone,
Charlie Chuck saying he's falling for sure. I've watched more of Dart. Doubt he gets past the Steelers. So are we going to talk about Justin Tucker later in the show? I mean, we talk about it right now. I mean, I don't know what we talked about enough sexual assault, in the past couple of years. So I mean, what do you say? He's had a rough year, man.
What a fall!
Lost,
what a fall
and
from grace.
Unfortunate. This is becoming a. I don't even. What is there to talk about?
To me, it's almost an IQ thing, though, because say that's how you operate, say that's how you maneuver through life. Then the Deshaun stuff happens, and it becomes the light. It's like, oh, they're looking for this now. Like this behavior is being targeted, and you're still out there making taking those risky. You know what I mean? Like Justin Tugger, out there. Come on, man. They're looking for that stuff, and you're still behaving like that. At that point, you must not be able to help yourself.
Yeah. I think I like the way you said that. If you're going through life operating that way in just situations where that should not even be part of the equation, then you got issues. Sorry. So,
Yep.
we'll see what happens with all that. See how it shakes out. All right. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I want to tell you guys in the chat, and I always mean to do this. Just because I didn't ask your question when you posed it doesn't mean I won't get back to it. Like, believe it or not, I do have an order of operations for the show written here. So some of your questions aren't pertaining to the topic that we're on, but I know we're going to come back to it later. I'll start it and I'll get back to it later in the show. So I promise you, like Jason, I got your question about Shador. I'll hit it later in the show, just as an example. So FYI, pay attention. So I did want to bring up okay, so firstly there was reports earlier this week. Let's get to some of the rumors and news, right? Reports that the Titans, Browns, and Giants, this was a weird one, right? All told Sanders not to practice at the Shrine Bowl or Shrine game. Barry refuted that when he talked to the media. What that's weird because there was a whole thing about we don't want players coming there just interviewing, not practicing, and that's exactly what he did. And then there was reports that the teams told him not to practice. Just weird.
Did they tell him not to weigh in, or is that a personal business decision?
I have no idea. I mean,
listed at 210, and the rumors are he ain't above 2.
I doubt he is. He doesn't look it.
And then that's another thing is hearing people that were there were saying how small he is in person.
How tall is he?
I don't know what he's listed as. 6'1", maybe.
He looks tall. No,
he just looks diminutive.
Like him, he was standing there with the pad during the practices next to the quarterbacks. And I remember thinking, he looks plenty tall. I think he's just slight.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is worse.
Maybe he's short too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not. I would. I bet you his hand size is fine.
Well, you can never tell, man, because we're talking about someone like Jalen Milroe's 6'1", 3/4", 220. Looks like Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? He's walking around with these tiny mitts, but then you got someone like Russell Wilson with 10-inch hands. Like sometimes you can't just tell.
The reason that I say that is just because the way he throws the ball, he throws a pretty ball, and yeah. And the way he spins the ball, it would make me think that, you know what I mean? But maybe not. Maybe not. So I did want to bring. Did you make anything of that whole thing? Barry refuting the report. He said we didn't care. We didn't tell him anything.
Not really.
Okay.
Don't make much of it.
Yeah. All right. So Brown's connections, and this is what everybody's been talking about, and this is what, thanks again to OG Philly for, clap it up, for discovering this, or putting another site onto this, that everybody's been talking about this, but, Tommy Rees connection with Milroe. Right. That's an obvious one. But
Stefanski's connection with Cousins. Like this is the time to start connecting dots.
Stefanski with Cousins. Shador Sanders then. And I didn't even think about this until this whole thing came up, but if you think about it, Shermer was the OC in Colorado, right? And we know Stefanski and Shermer have.
Yeah, I was aware of that one. I wasn't aware of the other one.
It just made me think about it more.
Yeah,
but then they named Bill Musgrave the quarterback's coach, and Philly was quick to point out. I think I have the clip here. This is Dion talking about Bill Musgrave, of all people. Hard to believe they played at the same time. You know what I mean? Just by looking at them.
Looking at both. No.
Yes. But here's Dion talking about his favorite Super Bowl moment. Favorite.
My favorite Super Bowl memory is a guy named Billy Musgrave, who was our scout team quarterback. Great player on his own right, but he played on the scout. We had Steve Young, NFL offensive MVP. Billy worked his butt off, prepared us, really got us right. But he never played because of Steve Young. So during the Super Bowl, we're kicking San Diego's butt. And I go to George Seifert and I say, put Billy in. And he looked at me like, I said, no, man. Put Billy in. And Billy got to throw a pass, and Billy got to play in the Super Bowl. And that's my fondest memory, man. That's really my fondest Super Bowl memory, that Billy got to play, man.
Billy got to play, man. So there's a connection there. Obviously, they knew each other, fond of each other. And then a lot of people want to draw a line there from, Musgrave to Sanders, Dion. What do you make of this?
Interesting.
It's the time of year.
It's thought-provoking. Is something that I hadn't previously considered. So it's new information.
It is new information, and it is thought-provoking. But it's not like, here's the one thing that I think some people are taking it like, you can account for it and like keep it in the back of your mind and watch for other signs is kind of like how I would approach it. But like people saying, obviously they gave Musgrave the job, just so they could appease to Dion because they want to take Shedeur. Like I see a lot of people drawing those conclusions, and I think that's a stretch.
Yeah. I think they're preparing. I think Musgrave is. Look, you got a new offensive coordinator, first time ever coordinating an offense in the NFL, young guy. You're giving him veteran staff. You're putting guys around him with tons of experience. And if you look at Musgrave's history, he's got much like Stefanski, has kind of a history of elevating mid-level dudes. So I think you're kind of preparing for the inevitable here. I think you're going to get in a mid-level dude. That doesn't mean you're drafting a quarterback. I don't know where, but you're drafting a quarterback. So that doesn't change no matter who you get mid-level to come in, whether it's the highest of mids in Kirk Cousins or, or if it's still Jameis, whoever it is, you want to coach that guy up, and you're going to have to develop a young guy coming in. And you have Musgrave's very experienced, and he's worked with young dudes. Like Derek Carr's best year in the league was with Musgrave when he was a young guy. When Matt Ryan was a rookie, that's who he had. So he's used to doing that. He's used to bringing guys in. So I just think they're trying to insulate their offensive staff to give Reese as much help as possible and veteran voices to bounce stuff off of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Stefanski, here's Philly breaking it down even further. Stefanski and Shermer, Musgrave, OC for Shermer and Philly, Musgrave and Dion. Lots of direct lines at the very least in how he might fit. 6 degrees of Dion of Coach Prime, world's fastest. I guess I would say this. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I just don't see it with Sanders in Cleveland. I see the connections. I see how he could fit. I would also point out that in both cases, Reese and Musgrave were on the staff last year. So unless they're playing, the super long
The
con
long
here.
game. Yeah. This is Musgrave's third year on the staff.
Yeah, Musgrave's
They've
third
been
year.
preparing, baby.
It's not like he's
Yeah.
he's new to the staff. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But if at the very least, it should calm. If they did want to go Sanders, it should calm the waters with Deion a little.
Mhm.
You would think.
Yeah, I mean, but Deion's Deion. You don't think he
Yeah.
has connections with every team in the league in some way or fashion? These coaching staffs, if you've got veteran coaches who've been around since Deion was playing, you know, I mean, he's going to have connections with a lot of teams in that way.
Yeah.
And he might not respect all of them the way he respects Musgrave. That might be different, you know, but I'm sure if you searched around and pilfered through coaching staff, if you got some veteran coaches, there are going to be some sort of connection to Deion, good or bad.
Really? I didn't know this. Charlie Chuck saying that Zagura is nonstop pumping quarterback at 2.
Mm-hmm.
He is usually in the know. He usually is too.
Yeah.
That is a little scary, I gotta say. We're gonna get into that here in a minute. We're gonna kind of get into if the draft was tomorrow, right? If the draft was this weekend, let me, before I get into this, I want to read what Philly said here. I'm viewing it more from a pro offensive structure standpoint. Shador fits in that way. And by the way, I don't even want Shador. Yeah.
Which is something we said a month ago. Like we were talking about Cam or Shador. I like Cam's tools better, but if we're being honest, who fits what they want to do better, it would be Shador. Like it's
the point guard aspect of what he does fits very
you
much.
Watch him play in structure and on schedule, and he's accurate. And he makes timing throws, but it's when he gets caught playing hero ball and taking sacks and trying to be a better athlete than he really is that he gets in trouble. And he doesn't have the arm to get him put himself in those kind of positions. You know what I mean? He has to stay on schedule and timing and rhythm and tempo. But when he does that, he is successful.
Bill P says Sanders is like a poor man's Bryce Young. He's a lot bigger than him. How tall is Bryce Young?
Is he 6 foot?
I don't think he's
rail thin. Yeah, I think Bryce might have weighed over 200, but those guys are putting nickels in their pockets for those weigh-ins, man. Yeah. They're getting as big as they can get and not physically testing at that size because they can't move the same.
Right. They're not going to play at that size.
Yeah, I'd say Young looks like he plays at like 185.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like.
Can Sanders be coached out of that? Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't think all of these guys are not finished products. The thing that worries me about Sanders, though, is that he probably has had the most schooling and the most professional work done on his game. Yeah. He's had the best coaches and best trainers his whole life because of who his dad is.
Yeah.
So he should be closest to finished project.
Yeah, I can see that. He's also been homeschooled his whole life, in the fact that Deion's never not been his head coach. And who knows how he takes to other things when he's like literally separated from his dad in that way. And because don't get me, I mean, it's got to be rough, dude. Deion casts a large shadow. And on top of that, when he's your head coach, like for Shador to become his own man, he needs to get out of that and be in a place where his dad doesn't hold power over things and truly grow. So it'd be interesting to see how he takes the things when that does happen.
Takes the coaching that is in his dad's, as Jason said earlier, and I promised I would get back to it. Any worries about Shador only being coached by his dad?
Yeah.
See, I think he's had other people coach him in like sessions and like training sessions.
He's worked with Tom Brady, for Christ's sakes. He's been exposed to like.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've watched him throw with Peyton Manning before.
Yeah. So he's thrown with the best of the best. His offensive line was atrocious. Philly's pointing out, which is a good point. I read Shador said he is his own man.
He's never had to be, though, so we'll find out.
Right. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to excel outside of that. Listen, I'm not saying he can't do it or anything like that. I just don't know if I see, like, would he be a first-round pick if this was last year?
No,
He wouldn't be.
no.
And us taking him at 2 when he wouldn't even be a first-round pick last year, that's scary.
Hell yeah, it is. And like the things that I've heard in like, okay, like pro comp, like a Geno Smith type. Geno Smith's a decent quarterback. You can win games with Geno Smith. You might even make a playoff with Geno
But
Smith.
not at second overall.
Hell no. That's what I'm
No.
saying. Like, and I if you're going to draft a guy number 2 overall at that position, you got to believe that he can be in the upper quartile of the league.
He better be your franchise quarterback.
Damn straight. Yeah.
If not, you should be taking somebody else, another position.
Yep.
Which is going to bring us to the bigger conversation of tonight that I want to get to. But before we do that, I want to show you another clip. So this was Stefanski, who did attend the first time at Shrine and Senior Bowl since he's been head coach of the Browns, attending both, which makes sense. You have the second overall pick. This is really Stefanski's opportunity to pick his quarterback, his young quarterback, right? Like there's all these options. You've got your free agent options out there. You've got your draft. It's not the greatest options in the world, but he can pick. I believe if I'm Andrew Berry, I'm letting him pick his guy.
Both your jobs depend on it.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll have my input and I'll tell you what I see.
I mean, it's going to be one of those lockstep things, but you're going to weigh his opinion more than anyone else's in this.
But I more than ever, I want him to say, this is the guy who can run my offense. This is the guy. Because, and I'm going to get to it later, there's all this talk about, okay, the quarterback's not here. And I'm going to bring up the dilemma that I am. It's confusing. It makes your head hurt to think about. And I'm going to bring that up. It really is a conundrum that they are kind of in right now. And I want to pose some questions to you guys, the chat, and you, Casey. But I did want to play this clip first because when I heard this clip, I thought, damn, just it kind of puts you off. Like Stefanski almost he's already nonchalant.
Yeah.
No, tell me if it doesn't rub you like, it doesn't matter who my quarterback is. Where it's gonna work. Like that's how he sounds in this clip. And tell me if you agree. This was at the Senior Bowl, by the way.
Games, you didn't do much very well, so we're looking at everything, and certainly, you talk about the quarterback position is important when it comes to winning and losing. We get that. We've had different guys that we've won with, so we believe in our system and that a system that's going to adapt to our best players, and certainly you're thinking about the quarterback position when it comes to that. But for us right now, it's about putting the system in with Tommy, Reese, and this offensive staff, and making sure that it's adaptable to whomever we got out there at all of those spots.
Thoughts?
Well, he's not wrong in what he's saying, but like it's the elephant in the room is you have to have a talented player to do that. To go somewhere with it. If we're just talking about just winning some games, yeah, we've seen him win with PJ Walker. That's not that's not the end game here, right? The end game is to go try to win a chip. Is to try to build and make and win your division and make playoff runs. And to do that, you need a talented player. In your system by itself will never be enough to do that.
No. But did you get
that
feeling?
Job this year? Maybe.
That's what I'm going to talk about. But did you get that feeling from him? Did that not come off a little arrogant?
Yeah, no, it did. And it definitely did. We've won with multiple players, and in his head, he's shitty players. We've won with below average quarterback play before, but your defense was playing lights out. A lot of things have to happen for you to win with bad quarterback play. And
Yes.
and
you got to have a good defense. You got to have a run
injuries,
game.
and you need a lot of stuff to go your way to excel with that strategy. At the end of the day, you need a talented signal caller, and I get that they have to install stuff now. You got a new offensive coordinator. You're starting to put stuff together, but it's got to fit skill sets, man. It's got to fit skill sets. It has to be skill set dependent. You got to lean into what people do, and you want to. And at the end of the day, you want a marriage of those two things to come together. It isn't just like we're going to build the system and it doesn't matter, because it will matter. Now, might you be able to win 8 games like that? Maybe. You can also win 4. With bad quarterback play. If you want to win 12, which has got to be the goal, double digits and higher if you want to go where they want to go. So, but you can't panic up there either. But there was no sense of urgency.
You guys are saying it's a smokescreen. If he really believed that, I do think he believes that. I do think he honestly believes that in his system, given no restraints, the reason, OG Philly says here they'd still be planning for Watson. No, because they changed the entire system for Watson. Yeah. I think it's the pivot back to his.
Because they were 5-1 with Watson with that system.
Yeah, and then 1-6
he wasn't playing good
in the other one. So it's the pivot back to his system that I think is giving him the confidence, right? No, not with any QB. I agree. I'm not saying he's saying that. I just thought he came across a little weird there, like it didn't matter.
The quarterback position 100% matters.
100%. There's no question.
You're going to
it's
have
the most important position in sport
by far.
But I just thought that was an interesting clip. All right, let me throw 2 names at you. Okay. Baldy's breakdown. Okay, because we got to get creative now. These guys out here. Baldy did a breakdown on Joe Milton with the Patriots, and supposedly he was very good all year, taking to coaching, listening, waiting his time, and looked excellent in the one game that he did play. Maneuvering the pocket, kept his eyes up, made some really good throws. Would you call, or do you have any interest in Milton?
Well, I'm not turning down any quarterbacks that have a high level of talent. He definitely has talent. Is one of the highest recruited guys coming out of high school. Never worked at Michigan. He went to Tennessee and ended up getting usurped by Hendon Hooker. He's been around. He was an older prospect coming out, but the physical tools are undeniable.
Yeah.
So if you can get that for a day 3 nothing pick to bring in as your lottery ticket, because when we did the OBR roundtable for GM, Jack Duffin, and we each had to lay out our plan. My plan includes a veteran that you can roll without the gate, drafting a player, and then either a reclamation project or a lottery ticket. One of those players that maybe aren't thought of well, but at one point they were, and you think you could resurrect him, or a guy you can pry from another team. I said Malik Willis on here before. That's like a player that's a backup somewhere that you feel has starting level talent inside of them. It doesn't mean you're getting them to start for you, but you're bringing them in to develop them. Another name I would invoke would be Tyson Bagent in Chicago. They got Caleb. They're not looking to play this kid. I would try kicking the tires on that. And if you can get that for a 6th round pick, 7th round pick, let's scratch some lottery tickets, man. Let's bring them in. You got to cast the widest net humanly possible.
Yep. Where would Milton get drafted in this class?
Still, I mean,
I feel like he would be pretty high.
I still don't think he goes in the first 2 days, man. Maybe.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, dude. There's tons of tape on him in college, and there were reasons that he lasted as long as he did.
I'm talking it's a year later now.
Yeah, but you're basing it off one game and hearsay from practice. We don't.
Okay.
It's just, and that one game. Don't get me wrong, man. He made some throws that
He balled out.
Some of the throws he's making, it's like, I don't know if there's 10 other quarterbacks who can make that.
And
that's what
he looked better in the pocket, the way he moved in the pocket. He just looked like a different quarterback a little bit. It would be worth exploring that opportunity. The other name I want to throw at you, and I'm going to throw this one at you, and it got mentioned in that article, which I kind of hung on to it since then, and I'll keep bringing it up because I have interest in this guy, is Kyle Trask. 6'5". I was reading his draft profile. He went, first pick in the second round, I believe.
They took a swing on him thinking he might be the successor to Tom Brady.
Yeah, he's 6'5". Yeah, talk about hand size. He has 10.5 hands. There's some mitts, right?
That's huge.
And he's never really gotten a shot. I mean, he got the competition with Baker that he lost, but he's never had a shot on the field. So a guy that somebody felt was worth taking at the top of the second round.
Yeah. He was a big deal when he got to Florida.
Yeah. And he has the pedigree, no doubt. So he's a free agent. And he lost easily to Baker. I don't know how we know if he lost easily to Baker or not. But
they didn't name Baker the starter until late in that process. I do know.
Yeah, it was late.
I don't know how close it was because I wasn't paying attention.
And it's not like they, made it clear how close it was or what was what. I think Baker was always going to win that because he's Baker Mayfield, and that's Kyle Trask. Either way, Trask, I'm not talking starting for us.
No,
I'm
it's
talking
the same thing I'm saying with the other guys. It's a lottery ticket.
Reclamation projects.
And it's cheap.
One of the guys that you should bring in should be a reclamation project. Like you said, there's a number of them out there.
He checks all these boxes.
And I'm just saying, if you're not going to reach it too, and you want to, bring in a reclamation project, why not a kid that was valued high enough by a lot of teams to take in the first or second round, or went high in the second round, has all the tools, I was reading his profile. He has a big arm, has the size. Well, we saw Zappy, Ja, and he
they had him. They might bring him in. We'll see. We'll see what they thought of him because they had him all year.
Well, he couldn't even throw through the wind in that game.
I know. I'm not kicking anyone off this list, man. You can, but the thing with
I'm throwing Zappy out the list. He couldn't do it. He couldn't throw the ball through the wind that day.
Are you saying you can't bring him back to compete with DTR for a practice squad spot? Because I'm not.
Well, okay, go. Yeah, if we're talking about
none of these guys, I'm not looking at any of these guys as solutions. But I need to bring you in and find out. Well, I don't know what they thought of him. They thought of high enough to give him reps, but was what he did enough to just completely trash him? I don't know how they feel about it, but I'm not kicking. We need answers. And
all right, let me rephrase this then, so we stop being silly and saying things about Zappy and stuff. And DTR, I think I know who DTR is. I think I know who Zappy is. Let me tell you about some guys I don't know who they are fully yet that are worth not starting but bringing in as a reclamation project. Trey Lance. Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, Joe Milton, Malik Willis. Those are guys that have some upside, that haven't had a lot of playing time in the NFL, that maybe you get them in the right system and they could turn into something. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying make them a starter, anything like that. These are the guys that I look at who I think have some upside, have big enough arms, have proven that they have the base talent that you could at least bring them in as a reclamation project. Yeah, and then you have your group of veterans, and then you have your group of higher tier veterans. Yeah. What I don't know what you're trying to tell me. The keyword system. What are you? Explain what you're pushing back against here. I'm confused by what you're pushing back against as far as these names. We have no idea. Zach Wilson is another one.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. I put Tyson Bagent on that list. What I've seen out of him. I liked. But that's it, man. It's castaway, and it's got to be cheap. That's the other part of this equation. You got to find someone cheap and accessible. And some of these guys, you're going to have to trade late day 3 picks to get them in the house. Some of these guys are free agents, but none of them are going to be expensive to get in here and find out what they got. It'd be interesting to see what the final number is of quarterbacks they bring into camp.
So thank you, Philly, for OBR subscribers. An interesting nugget just dropped by Lane and Insider Central. Reason enough to go subscribe right there. I will tell you this, Calvin. I agree with you. Zappy and DT. I'm not going to call them trash, but for me, I don't care if they're here or not next year.
Yeah, I think DTR is going to be just because of the contract. But for me, he's a practice squad guy. I don't look at it. Yeah, that's the reason I'm saying I don't care. Bring as many guys as you can. I don't see him as a viable, playable person. If you want to keep him on the practice squad and keep developing him, I'm fine by me, man.
Okay, so here's what Ja is pushing back against. He's defending Zappy. So Zappy based off the system that Dorsey put together. He really wasn't bad in the system in New England. I'm not saying he's a slam dunk, but if we are using Dorsey's system as a bar, I'm not using any system as a bar. I'm just saying that in the AFC North, I think you need to have a strong enough arm to throw in the weather, and Zappy struggled to do that.
Yeah. I can't give you a reason to keep him. I can't say that this is the reason you'd need to do it.
Philly says, I will love it.
Pretty sure that means we know what it is.
Do we? There's a lot that I would love, Case Dog. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad, dude. Here's the thing. It's 84 days until the draft.
Right.
84 days. Nothing's in concrete.
All right. So here's my other group. Okay. So you have that group that we talked about, and there's some other names you can throw in. It's kind of strange. Justin Fields and Daniel Jones are guys that you could either put in that group or kind of in the like a higher level.
They've got more experience.
Yeah.
Their experience puts them in a different tier, in my opinion, than lottery ticket guys.
Are you considering Drew Lock at all? Because I'm not. I
was at one point because I liked him in Missouri. His play early in Denver was pretty good. He just fell off. And what's crazy is, though, his final game in New York, he literally turned in the best statistical game of any New York Giant quarterback of all time in one game. So, well, he would have been cheaper had he not done that, because he looked like they just gave up on him. I like his, but is he an answer overall? Maybe not. If he was cheap, I'd bring him in. I just don't think he'll be cheap enough to bring him in.
People really against the Daniel Jones stuff.
Yeah, well, there's once again, just as the Jackson Dart Hive exists, it exists for Daniel Jones in some of my chats. Here's something that I've thought about over recent days, though. How did he endear himself when he got to Minnesota? Does Kevin O'Connell view him as a good enough backup to just let Darnold walk? And if he does, that's a cheaper option, right? You're going to save yourself $30 million by using him as your backup for $10 million, as opposed to paying Darnold the $40 that he's going to get. And then if your plan is to play JJ anyway, then give me a veteran backup for $10 million.
I don't think they're playing JJ out to get next year. I think he still needs more time.
But then do they feel comfortable enough with Daniel Jones to pay him $10 million to save the $30 million they'd have to pay extra? They'd have to pay Darnold is the
If
question.
I'm Quessy, I'm not. I'm not risking that. I have enough talented enough roster and enough weapons that I will franchise tag Sam Darnold for $40 million because it's on the books and off 1 year. Boom, on, off. It doesn't hurt you long term or anything.
Yeah.
So why not? And they have plenty of money, as Charlie points out. Yeah, they're cap. They're in good shape as far as the cap goes. Then you've got your Brissetts and Flaccos and the guys that, have been here before. I'm good on that. I know a lot of people want to go back to Jacoby. I saw the Jacoby experiment. It was fun. He played well. They had a great EPA, but they didn't win any damn games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were 3-7. Maybe?
Yeah. 3-6 or 3-5 or something like that.
Well, no, because Watson missed 11 games, so I think they were 4-7.
Okay.
I think that's how it went.
I think somebody else made a start in there, maybe. Jameis Winston is still in consideration for me if, to bring back Cousins and Darnold. And then the other ones that I would potentially be looking into would be like 4-7 says minimal, would be like listen, Jeffrey, I said that and I got ran out of the room. I thought Cooper Rush was playing good football last year. He won a lot of games in Dallas after the season was lost.
Do you know how many games he started? Because I don't.
Not just last year, but over the years, he's won.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to say what tier to put him in. Well,
he's won a lot of starts. He's older. 1 second.
You're good. Do you see him on the same level as a Taylor Heineke, or do you see him as an above a Taylor Heineke? Is my question.
I think they're about the same.
Say that's where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm at. I'm just trying to decide what tier to call that. Gamers? They're just gamers.
Yeah.
They're son of a coach. Son of a coach. They're all like that cliche lunch pail guy, blue collar, hard worker, sneaky athlete. Things that we just reserve for white quarterbacks.
Hold on. That's incorrect. That's Trey Lance's. This is on Trey Lance. This is not on Cooper Rush. I apologize. Come on, Coop.
I admittedly try not to watch Cowboys games as much as possible, which is hard because they're always on TV.
They're always on, and I'm usually betting on the game. So
there you go. Being a DGens give you the leg up on Cooper Rush knowledge that I just don't have. Every time I've seen him play, he's been like feisty. They've been competitive.
Rush?
They don't get ran. Yeah, when he's starting, they never get ran out of the building. Yeah.
So this year. Hold on, what's going on here? I'm so bad with these stat pages, as you guys know. All right, in 2024, he played in 12 games. .7 completion percentage. 1,844 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Stefanski would like the sound of that.
Yeah. With an 83.8 rating. And I wanted to see his wins because
I want to see his rushing stats.
His what?
His rushing stats.
12 games. Game log. All right. So, in his starts, so They beat us week 1.
Yes, they did. It was a drubbing.
He started. When did Dak get hurt? Like week 4 or 5, right?
I was going to say 5 or 6, but 4
Yeah.
or 5 is probably about right.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
So Monday Night Football against Houston, they lost 34-10. I think this was maybe his first start, because the other ones are real small on the attempts, right? So, anyways, he was 32 of 55, 354 yards, touchdown and an interception, and they lost. Next week, they beat Washington 34-26. He was 24-32, 247, 75 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's a good win. And the week after that, they beat the Giants. At this point, they are 1-6, 7, something like that, right? Win against Washington, win against the Giants, lost to Cincinnati by a touchdown. 18 of 31, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Beat Carolina, beat Tampa Bay 26-24. That was the game I was super impressed by him in. And then lost to Philly in the last week. But I mean, he won like 4 starts out of 6 there.
Mhm.
And then in previous years, because Dak has been so damn dinged up.
Yeah. It feels like the tide's turned on Dak. Like people just don't believe in him now. It kind of goes year to year with him.
in
The general populace feels about Dak Prescott.
in 22, he won 1, 2, 3, like 4 starts and lost 1. So I'm saying he's won like double-digit games as a starter, which to me carries some weight. That's all. So
I wonder
Rush,
what the price tag would be
90.
on someone like him.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, it just has to be cheap options. That's all we can really do right now. A bunch of cheap options.
Yeah, he did have a slow start. Appreciate you, OG. Thanks. So he's a guy that I would at least kick the tires on. I mean, he feels like a guy that would fit in the system. Same with Heineke Gamers, right? Our gamer crew. It's our gamer committee. Anybody else you want to put in there?
Not on that level. I think
Drew Lock, maybe.
Yeah, but he might be more expensive now. I think he got paid like 6 last year, and he balled out at the end of the year. I don't know. Probably not.
Okay. But my top tier, where do you put Daniel Jones? Anyways, I never got your answer on that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a question. I mean, I'm not big on Daniel Jones, but I've said this all along, and I maintain this. Whatever veteran you get, it's not going to be a sexy name. He qualifies, and he can do more with his legs. It raises his value a little.
Yeah.
But I'm not like pumped on Daniel Jones. Like,
no,
but
it's not exciting.
Few options that I'm going to walk away like, yeah, man, that's. I think the elephant in the room is the Cousins thing.
That seems like the straightest line to a solution. But let me lay out the scenario now that we went through all. Those are the agents. This is for me, like the biggest question surrounding this whole quarterback, this draft, who you take it to 33, how you approach the entire season this year. Okay. Do they have one season? Do you have one season to keep your job? And do you have to approach it like that? Or have you been able to sit down at the table with Jimmy, right? And say, listen, we don't believe in A and B in this draft. We don't love anybody like we should love them to take them this high in the draft. We want to trade back, get a draft asset, take the best available player, get a veteran. We can still compete whether they do or not. and then and then we want to go. We think we see, because they have to have planned this out. You can't just not have a quarterback or an idea of a solution on the horizon at all. Like, if you don't like these two, then you've got to identify the next opportunity to get that guy. You can't just start throwing darts at second, third rounders and stuff and hope one of them was. That'll never work, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
works,
lightning in a
but
bottle.
it's
It works
not.
so
It's
few
not.
times that it's not bankable.
It's not a solution. So you either have to say, "Hey, we got to find our guy in free agency that we see as a guy of the future, a guy in this draft," or but all the free agency options I see is stopgaps in lottery tickets, like we just
Yes.
talked about. And then, or is the guy in next year's drafting? And did Jimmy sit down and say, "Okay, yeah, you're good. Let's approach it this way. If you don't love these guys, you're fine. You'll be safe." I don't think he would do that.
He's
Maybe
safe
he
as long
would.
as they win enough games this year.
Right, but that's
They could finish this year with not a solution long term if they win 8, 9, 10 games to buy them another year. But how they get that? How do they get the quarterback the next year then? If you win that
That's
many
what I'm
games, because you find yourself out of position, unless you
Well-
get lucky and trade back with a team who ends up being horrible, so you still wind up with the top 6 pick next year. That's banking
No,
on
I'm
so many variables.
Here's what I'm saying. So, if you truly believe, like, okay, he's not in this class, it's
Yeah.
whatever. We believe there'll be a guy for us next year.
Mhm.
So, whatever you finish at, you got to win X amount of games. My number has always kind of been like 7. You got to play some competitive football in December, and I think that would be enough to keep him around, especially if you had laid out this plan previously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you trade back, right, this year, and get up first next year, or whatever you get back.
Mhm.
But then you take, if the guy's really there, you give up next year's first, the first you get, and the following year's first to come all the way up and get the guy you want for the future.
Yeah. So many
Three f-
variables in that. But yes.
Three first gets you up anywhere up near the top of the draft, right?
Typically.
Yeah.
Unless it's, look, man, in 2012, 3 first couldn't pry the first from Indy because Holmgren tried,
Well, of course. Yeah.
So
I mean,
if he's that guy and I looked at as that guy, then 3 might not be enough.
Yeah, I'm not saying go. You're not going to be able to go up to 1 and get a guy. I'm just saying that if you believe next year's class has 4 or 5 solutions that you could love,
If you believe it's comparable to last year's class,
right?
even.
And there's none, and a lot of people believe the next year's class will be loaded. Now, there are a lot of factors there, like some guys might not come out. They might not play as well as they thought, and then they stay in school. And now what? You're going to kick the can to 2026. So that's that's the dilemma. This is the conundrum for me. So a lot of people that you would tell this to would be like, well, shit, you can't screw around with it. You got to take somebody now. Can you love Cam Ward? Can you love Shedeur? And I don't believe that you should ever settle on a quarterback at 1 or 2. You just can't do it. It's a bad process. But somewhere between here and there, Casey, you have to have a solution. And there's not one on the board if you don't. So what do you do?
God damn.
It's kind of a fucked situation, to be honest.
All right. So my mentality right now is, if you ask her, they have to be honest with themselves and trust their evaluations. Do you love the player? Whether it's Cam, whether it's Shedeur, whether it's Jack, whatever. Do you absolutely love a quarterback in this draft? If so, you pray no one takes him at 1 and you take him at 2. But before the draft, will you get a call from the New York Giants to move up 1 spot if they love both quarterbacks? You will get a call. If they absolutely love both quarterbacks enough to draft them at 3, they're going to call because you can't risk not getting them at 2. But we say you get into draft night and say the Titans pick Abdul Carter. I'm calling Vegas. I'm picking up that phone right now and I'm calling Vegas. If I don't love I'm with you. You can't settle. You can't pick a quarterback just to pick a quarterback. You have to love the prospect. You absolutely have to believe that
Can't-
prospect has the ability to take you where you want to go long term. You have to believe
Yes.
it. And if you do not believe that, you can't make that pick. So if the first pick's Abdul Carter, I'm calling Las Vegas. I'm
I
open for
don't
business.
think we've kind of both said maybe on Cam, but the
Mhm.
more I watch some of his stuff, the more I'm not feeling better. I'm feeling worse as I watch him.
Mine hasn't changed from where I was from the last time we
Okay.
talked about him, but he's the only guy that I look at with elite ceiling. But his floors, it scares the shit out of me.
He scares me, man. He scares me. He doesn't. I don't know.
You got to trade down with a team that you believe could have a rough year next year.
I know.
That's what you got to do. And for me, that's the Giants and the Raiders.
You see the dilemma, though. Like, so you got to start asking yourself questions like this. Like, how long is our leash?
And they know, I mean, way more than we do. They've had these conversations with Jimmy. They've had to lay out their plan. And they didn't lay out the plan that Stefanski just did when he gave his interview. They didn't lay out the plan. It doesn't matter who we get. The system's the system.
If
You've
they
gotta find a dude.
say, yeah, if they say they want to wait until next season to go get your franchise quarterback, how does that change the approach to the draft? If you take Dart or a Milroe, or you wait on somebody and take a Gabriel or something like that in the
Mhm.
top of the second or the third, does that prohibit you from going up and getting a guy you love next year at the top of the draft? Now
No.
you're using more assets.
Yeah, I don't give. You can't use enough assets to find your quarter. If whatever nets you the quarterback's fine with me. Look, man, and this is going to sound boring, and I understand it's not sexy. I'm in on the Cousins idea because I think you can win enough games, and I'm in on taking a flyer on a Will Howard or a Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
You're bringing a rookie in.
You're drafting
I'm in
one.
on that.
Yes. The question, though, is...
But those guys don't prohibit me from next year if I see a guy that I love.
No, they don't. But like, if you do that, can you get up to get the guy you want next year? Because you can't just say Cousins and take this guy and hope for an answer. These things don't work out. How many times have I watched an NFL team do things like that? Though that doesn't work. A bridge in a 5th rounder or a 4th rounder or a 3rd rounder, whatever.
Mhm.
That's not a solution.
There might not be a solution in this year. They just have to tread water.
It might get you to 8 wins or playing competitive football
I think that's
based
where we're headed.
on the system. But like long term, you have to have a solution somewhere.
Yeah, you might not have it this year.
And when are you going to have, in order to keep your job, you would need to win X amount of games, so you can't tank. And when are you ever going to have the opportunity to take a quarterback again? And you don't love either of these guys potentially. So for me, this is a huge dilemma. Like I have a ton of questions about what the conversation. I guarantee they've had this exact conversation.
There's sometimes you suck in the wrong year, man. I think that's what's happened. I think
that's
you
not
just
an
sucked
answer
in the wrong
though.
year, and there's no answers. Everyone's got questions. All these quarterbacks they have visible flaws. You can look at them and be like, that's why we can't take this guy at that number. That's why we can't take this guy. Do we? I trade back. I don't love any of these quarterbacks enough to take him at 2, so I'm trying to trade back to 6, recoup a 1 next year.
Exactly.
Pray that the Raiders suck. I'm getting Kirk if I can get Kirk. If not, I'm getting Jameis and pairing him up with Will Howard or Kyle McCord, things that may work out long term, may not. They're not high probabilities because of where you're taking them, but I'm trying to win enough games to save my job and tread water to do this whole dance again next year. No clear solution.
Exactly. And that scares the shit out of me.
It sucks.
And And World's Fastest is saying you have to wait for the long-term solution. I'm agreeing with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't force it. You might have to wait, but like you have to project one. You can't just throw your hands up and say, "Oh, we'll just wait for some guy to walk through the door and be the savior of our franchise." You have to have a plan.
Plans tread water and try it again.
You can't. That's not a plan.
It's
Tread water and try it again.
Your options: panic, take a guy at 2 that you don't believe in. Like this is where you're at, man. This is where you're at. I don't like it.
And
either.
if you're talking about trading down, you're not going to get Abdul. You're not going to get the guys that everybody wants in this.
Oh, you trade down to, if you trade to 6, you can still walk away with a stud. You can walk away with a Mason Graham.
Yeah, you'll walk away with
McMillan.
A good.
I don't feel bad for us in that scenario. At 6, but that's about as far as you can go, right? Looking at quarterback hungry teams who may be willing to do something, but we don't know. They just got Pete Carroll. We don't know what their plan is.
Yeah, I mean, all these things you guys are saying, Josh, rebuild. Like I've probably written 5 articles about that. You have to rebuild the running back room. You have to have talent there. You have to retool the offensive line. You have to have a running game this year because your quarterback isn't going to be a Hall of Famer, and you need to make it as easy as possible on them. Totally agree. I mean, we've talked about this. Yes, Vet Bridge, World's Fastest. Vet Bridge, mid-round guy. Yeah, we just said that. I totally get that's the solution for this year. But that doesn't give you – it's not
because
at
the end, if we do this and you build the roster up as good as you can and you put the mid guy in, you're still left with Detroit's problem. Goff's not the guy to take you to the Super Bowl. You can build the whole team up around him. At the end of the day, it's going to be on him. And then when it comes down to it, is he the guy that's going to make the plays to take you to the promised land? Doesn't feel like it.
No.
So they're in the same position the Rams were in when they traded Goff. He wins you game during the regular season. He can put up stats, but in crucial moments, he's still an upper mid. He's just an upper mid guy. He's not elite. And to win the whole thing, you have to have elite.
I don't have a long-term fear. I'm just saying, World's Fastest. I don't have a long-term fear. I'm saying, yes, all you can do is build the best team possible. Totally agree. But like throwing your arms up, like internally, I'm trying to take this is very surface level stuff. Yes, I know the things that they have to do to try to win this year. That's not what I'm trying to talk about right now. I'm trying to say internally, they can't just throw their hands up and say, well, we're just going to tread water and hope things turn out better next year. And maybe we can get up and get a guy then. They have to have a plan to some point, get a quarterback of the future. So if that's trade back, get a first, bundle them up and move up, that's fine. But as you pointed out, there are a lot of other factors there that could go wrong for you. And I'm not just pointing out the fears. I'm just trying to say, this is a show. I'm trying to be real about their prospects and that this is a conversation they have to have.
Yeah. I still don't see a better plan right now.
Yeah.
I don't see a better plan than trading back with a team that you think may be one of the 5 worst teams in the league next year with a young quarterback, if that's the route they go. And it might not be because the quarterback's bad. It might just be because young quarterbacks have a hard time. The Patriots are a prime example. They got a rookie quarterback. He looked decent. He looked good. He looks promising. They still lost the most games, and they're still going to have the number 1 overall pick, but they don't have to reach for quarterback at number 1 because of that. You know what I mean? Or number 3 or whatever they ended up at. But towards the end of the year, they were in that exact same scenario. So you got to trade, hope the team does exactly what the Patriots did, lands in that bottom 5, and then you have your pick and their pick, and then maybe their pick's enough to get the guy that you want. Maybe the quarterback class is that loaded. Now, here's the other problem is we always look at next year's quarterback class being bigger. But because of the factor you listed, some of those guys might go back. Some of those guys might regress. Some of those guys might show flaws that we didn't think we would see. And all of a sudden that is not as shiny as it was when you're looking a year away by the time you get to it.
Yeah, they have to. I agree, Josh. They have to get their quarterback. Agreed. But like, and I will never say like to settle, like, right. But
Yeah.
you hear
That's
some
my biggest
people-
fear.
Yeah, it's my biggest fear too. But you hear some people saying, you got to take a guy this year.
Quarterback,
This
no
is
matter
your-
what,
This is your only shot. Quarterback, no
wild to
matter
me.
what.
which
right?
is wild to me.
Which is wild to me too. But when you look at it this way, you could see how you could arrive there.
Out of panicking, because you have to have a solution.
Panic.
You have to have a guy that you can use. This is our guy. He's going to be our guy.
Listen, we're not going to have the second pick in the draft. There's two guys up top. We should take a shot on one of them. That's our best chance going forward. Because when are we going to have this opportunity again? And I'm not saying I feel this way. I'm just saying that's the case people are making.
People would get there. Yeah, you could see how someone would get to that rationale.
But process-wise, that's dog shit. That's the worst process you can do.
It's panicking.
It's panicking.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to point out that when you have the long-term conversation about how this team gets back to relevance, like real relevance, or trying to compete again for an AFC championship, it's hard to there's no direct route there.
No, it's anytime you have hope in the equation, it's not a good equation. It's not, there's too much that can go wrong. It doesn't mean it'll go wrong, but it's the variance is there, period. I don't see a better option this year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of the stuff you guys are saying. We're on the same page, and that's the thing. If you're not, if you're bad enough to be up high in the draft next year with your own pick, then
you're
likely
it's a whole new regime,
it's a whole new regime, and now we're starting all over, which is my worst fear.
Yeah,
because I actually like
that's the thing that people don't talk about. And they're like, fire Barry, fire Stefanski. Okay. Understand, though, that a lot of the players that you love that are currently on this team, if that happens, are gone.
You're not going to compete for 5 years.
Yeah.
3 minimum. I still think they can compete soon.
Yeah.
But you have to have a plan, is my point. And there's no plan on the horizon. I guess trade back.
That's the only plan that I see that.
Tried to get a first for next year, but it's risky.
Super risky. Super risky. It's just, he sucked in the wrong year, man. Those guys. Normally, if you have the second overall pick, you're going to, it's just the wrong year for it.
I guess I'm not trying to like bring the conversation down or be a downer about it. It's just like, this is a real thing that I think about all the time. Like a lot of times when you talk about this, well, they got to do this, this, and this. We know the things they need to do to compete, and they certainly can. It's just, there's this thing, their jobs are hanging over their head, which changes the equation.
It's kind of similar to 2018. There was no clear-cut guy. We had the first overall pick and 4 guys that people were arguing over. And, you had Sam, Josh Rosen, Baker, and you had Allen and Rosen.
What would you want most, Carter or a first next year? I want a first next year because Carter can be... Yeah, he can be amazing.
Now, if you don't have a dance partner, none of this matters. If you're just stuck at 2 and no dance partner, it's Carter.
It's Carter. or unless they like Hunter better.
Yeah.
But I can't.
I don't see it, but
I don't see it.
there's arguments to be made. I can't
Yeah.
disregard it. But
So
well, there's a good question here by World's Fastest. Say it's the Giants, and it's before this. They're in love with both prospects, and before the draft, they
Wonderful.
call you to draw back to 3, and you get it first next year.
Yeah.
And Carter, run that.
yeah, that was literally, you took the words out of my mouth. My next question was going to be, what's the best case scenario for the Browns? Giants want to come up to 2. Titans
Guarantee they get one of their 2 dudes if they love both prospects.
Titans won't move off 1. Giants want a quarterback. They trade up with you. You get their first next year. Go back to 3.
Abdul Carter. Oof.
Take Abdul Carter.
Yes.
So you walk away with Carter and a first next year for the Giants, who will probably at some point start whatever quarterback they draft, which very well could end up and put them in the bottom top 5.
Yeah.
Or Vegas at 6.
Yep. Those are the 2 dance partners. 6 won't give you Abdul Carter. I don't think he lasts till 6.
No, you won't get Carter, but you'll
if you
still
walk
get
away with Mason Graham or Ted McMillan,
wonderful.
I think you feel great.
I think earlier when we were talking about this, a couple people in the chat, and I'm sorry I'm not giving your individual credit, but they were pointing out, people have talked about this draft class not being that good, but at certain positions, it's very good. It seems deep at edge. It seems deep at defensive tackle.
Running back, tight end.
And some places that the Browns really need help. Like the Browns should come away with a stud running back from this, and maybe even another one late. They should come. Their defensive tackle room should be loaded with Mike Hall when he gets healthy, Tomlinson, Garrett. You got all these guys coming back.
You even got Shelby under contract if you decide to keep him.
Yeah, Shelby. Absolutely. And then you draft, a second or third round pick in defensive tackle room is going to be a stud in this class.
Yep.
Could be.
Absolutely.
Get the right guy. So there's a way to do this. And the best case scenario is that. So what's the best case scenario then? So that's the draft best case scenario. So what's the best case scenario at quarterback in like how this team shapes up? You get a stud running back in the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still got a stud up at the top of the draft. You add to your defensive line. You add to your offensive line in free agency, and in the draft. Right?
There's a couple prospects I walked away from watching that weren't even in the front of my mind at the beginning of the Senior Bowl that I'm like, you can work with that, and I don't think it's going to cost you first, second round. You might be able to thread some stuff, get some smaller school guys that showed up that put up some good tape.
Yeah, and then is Cousins the best option?
I feel like he is because he can just raise your floor.
Yeah. So Cousins, they sign Cousins. They sign. Who would be your next choice? If they draft, who would be your best case scenario? Who's a guy that could fall in the draft, quarterback that you would want to take a shot at?
Look, man, I'm not going to mind you get to day 3 and Will Howard's there. I'm not going to be mad at you.
I don't think he'll be there day 3.
I still think I don't know. I don't know if he goes third round. I don't think he goes second.
Because I would take McCord, Honda McCord, or Howard.
Same. We're in the same boat. Paddling in the same direction. So it's Cousins. It's draft one of those 2. Say even if you say they're third, fourth round guys. I know people are going to go later. I think that Howard Rose's profile enough of because it isn't like, oh, he just played good for one game. Like that playoff stretch was good enough and long enough that I think you have a large enough sample size, and he has enough tools that I think that are worth developing. Who's my lottery ticket though? That's the question. Who my ideal lottery ticket?
You want Mac Jones? You want Trask?
I don't want McCorkle. I'm not high on McCorkle. McCorkle Jones, I'm off on him.
You're off on him?
Yeah, I don't want McCorkle Jones.
Okay. I'm out on. I would prefer to stay away from Zach Wilson, to be honest.
Yeah. At that point, it doesn't matter too much as long as like they have do have reasonable upside and they're cheap.
They got to be able to win games if Kirk gets hurt and he's not that durable at this age.
Yeah. Trade for Malik Willis.
I mean, you could just bring back Jameis as your backup.
Yeah, if Cousins, Jameis, rookie. Yeah.
I would prefer to take a lottery ticket.
But there's more variance if he has to start early. If Kirk does go down week 2, you at least know Jameis can operate.
Yeah. Would you rather have Derek Carr
running
Kirk
game
Cousins?
around him? Maybe you can stop him from throwing it over 32 times.
Would you rather have Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins.
I don't know. That's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't know.
Worked with Carr before. You factor that in. He probably physically has more in the tank.
Yeah, that's my concern. Like, if I knew I could get Cousins back like he was at the beginning of this season and next year's, or last year's Cousins, not last year, 2 years ago's Cousins, but like, so a year removed from the injury, is my hope, is that his Achilles feels better and he kind of returns to form a little bit.
Yeah, that's the hope. You're banking on it. Once again, we're banking on some stuff. The word hope. That word hope will get you crushed.
Well, we're on best case scenario now, so
yeah, and we're still hoping.
So we're on. We pivoted from. I laid out the worst case. Now we're looking at best case, and so Cousins looks great. And if he does get dinged up, who do you want as the backup?
I'd be more than happy with Jameis. I'd be happy with Jameis if you can't get Kirk to be my starter.
It's rough.
Well, it can be rough, or you could coach. Look, dude, Sean Payton had Jameis playing like a top-tier quarterback. He blew his ACL out. You can coach it up if you have what we were playing with last year with no running game, struggling with protection, disjointed offense, and we were still moving the ball like crazy.
I'm good on Trey Lance.
He could be my lottery ticket. I would, if you have those other things in place, I'm not going to be mad if that's your lottery ticket. I like Tyson Bagent. I think you could prime away from Chicago. I don't think they're interested. I got Caleb. Yeah.
As your backup.
As my lottery ticket backup. Just get him in.
I feel like my lottery ticket backup would be trade for Malik Willis if you could.
Yeah. He'll cost a little more because he's proven a little more worth. But they drafted Sean Clifford to be the backup to Jordan Love. They have a guy that they drafted to do that. He just wasn't ready, so they had to get Willis, and Willis took to the system, which the system in LaFleur's system is not too different. So I see the correlation of how he could work.
I think Jameis will sign here again. I think he would come back. If you, I wonder. You hear the rumors about Stefanski not liking him and stuff.
Yeah, I did. I think it's weird too because Jameis came here to play under Stefanski. That's the reason he came to Cleveland, is because he saw what he was able to do for Joe Flacco and thought, I can do that. That can be me.
You think there's any truth to that?
To the Stefanski not liking him?
Yeah, I mean, he did give up play calling the week that he took over.
The same week. Yeah.
He did demote him to third string after he changed the play in the huddle the week that week.
Yeah.
When he had a package in
There's
for him.
enough smoke there. I can't just like, no, that's
took
not
the package.
true.
He
There's
took the
enough smoke.
package out of the offense after he changed the play in the huddle and demoted him to third string.
Well, and then the other stuff that you were hearing about, like Stefanski wouldn't really criticize Watson in meetings, but was quick to criticize Winston and be like, so there might be something there. Look, I like Winston. There are flaws, right? They're visible.
Oh.
There's a lot of things that you don't want him doing, but you can't say you won't be productive. You could definitely coach him to be productive. But if you don't have a good working relationship, don't do it. So if you don't think he'd have a good working relationship, then don't bring him back.
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything of such. I was just asking if Casey thought that, or you guys thought it was potentially true that.
Yeah, it's definitely potentially true because there's a lot of things you could point to that don't all of a sudden make sense.
Yeah, there's some breadcrumbs there. Now, I don't know if it's serious enough to, not have him back, but and you could see how he could rub you the wrong way a little bit if you're a coach.
Well, yeah, dude, changing the plays. That's and you got to think the very last thing he did with the Saints was refuse the coach's play and
score that touchdown.
Yeah, like that happened. He defended it too in the post game. He said because he believed in his teammates, but it's like at the end of the day, that isn't why you're not the starting quarterback. You have to be who you can afford to be.
Yeah, and he can't afford to do that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they didn't, Joe, but I'm saying it happened. And if you have a history of doing that, and then you get to a new place and you do it again,
start doing it again. Yeah,
it's not looked at as favorably if you're a coach. I thought he should have been the starter. I was always Team Jameis.
Oh yeah, this year for sure. Over
in New Orleans, they thought he should. I always thought, I was like, why aren't that play? When they went to Andy Dalton over Jameis, it's like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah,
but some coaches, hey, look, I don't know.
But yeah. So just kind of wanted to have a hard talk about all of that. Worst case scenario. What does this look like? How do they plan it out? And then, best case scenario, what does this look like and how do they move forward? So I think that it's important to keep in mind that their jobs are kind of hanging in the balance and that will change the way they operate unless they've had these conversations with ownership. And to what point do those conversations hold up if you're not winning X amount of games?
Yeah, I mean, that was the elephant in the room this whole year is the word hot seat. It's like, well, nationally that was the perception, but I don't know if internally that was ever close to realization. What's the understanding ownership has with these guys? And that's just something we'll never be privy to. We'll be guessing. I feel like they have to win some games. I feel like 8 games is probably enough to keep them around. You think 7's enough, but I think that's where we're at. That's how we view it from not nationally. We're internal. We're close to the situation, and it feels like they got to win some damn games. And to do that, you got to be competitive. And I think you said it earlier. You got to be playing competitive football in December.
Yep.
You got to sprinkle those wins out there. They can't be front loaded. They got to come continuously throughout the season to where we get into December and you're still playing competitive football. It's a tough task.
It is.
And you don't have a plan at quarterback.
It is. It's tough. They can do it, though. I mean, they just got to get a couple things to go right. And, Had to be ownership involvement with Watson to get them a free pass. Yeah, I'm throwing last year, not out, but it was derailed from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
It was never right. And I feel like they should have the opportunity to fix it. They're getting one. But it's hard to operate with a gun to your head.
Yeah, but I've seen coaches be in this exact same situation. Not identical, but the gun to you're on the hot seat starting off the season, which I don't care for. And the media wants him gone, and they turn it all the way around.
Oh yeah,
You know, I've seen Tom
he can do
Coughlin.
it.
I've seen Tom Coughlin be on death's door as a coach and win the whole thing. So
I think it's possible too, and we don't know this. I think it's possible that they could have been given assurances already.
yeah, it seems preposterous to us, but we don't know what's going on.
We don't
The
know.
inner workings are. We don't know those. We're not privy to those conversations. I feel like they need to win games, but that doesn't mean that's the truth. That's the way I feel. I feel like they have to be putting a competitive product. I feel like you can't embarrass Jimmy. I think if Jimmy feels embarrassed, then your job is in jeopardy. If we want to get like strip wins and losses, if Jimmy feels embarrassed and can't go to those owners meetings with his head held high and his chest out a little bit about the direction of the franchise, then I feel like you're in trouble.
Yep. Once Chubb went down, it was over. We all felt it that they went to the playoffs that year.
Won 11 games.
Won 11 games.
Won 10 games after that, Josh.
Yeah, Manimal, you're right. I think there's a lot of nuance in a 7, and 10 season or an 8 and 9 season. It depends on games, how competitive you are late.
Mm-hmm.
How is the off season setting up with those picks? I think a lot of those things matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
the thing that scares me about the 7 is the number 10, the double-digit loss. That's what sounds damning. It makes 8 and 9 sound much more appealing.
It does. I think I agree with the idea that if they could play competitive football late, they'll be fine. To go into next offseason and at least try to execute it.
Schedule didn't do you any favors, brother.
I know.
And one of your home
fourth
games.
Place schedule too. That's the crazy thing. It's a 4th place schedule.
Mm-hmm. Still looks pretty daunting.
Yep. Need a running back stud for sure. That will change the game. I mean, you got to look at, even the playoffs. The teams that are winning are running the ball.
Mm-hmm. With running backs and quarterbacks, by the way.
Both, yeah. But you need explosive weapons around your quarterback on the outside and in the running back room, and a running game that is revitalized. The trend downward needs to stop. That's best case. That you lean into that. The system works when the running game works.
Keep your defense fresher. Everyone benefits. Everyone. Rising tide, baby.
Yeah. All right. No hope.
I see you, MC. Was that the best case scenario? He's just mad we didn't embrace Danny Dimes and anoint him the starter tonight. If we had done that, he'd be all about
it. Yeah, we went, bad case, not even worst case, bad case. I was just asking the questions, This is why this is a conundrum. This is why this is complex. And then best case scenario, how it can work out.
And when you're coming off a 3-14 season, you have to consider that things might not go great.
Yeah, exactly. I would double up at running back.
We just witnessed.
I would double up at running back. And if somebody that's on the roster this year that people like a lot has to go, then oh well. Let them battle it out in camp. I'm all for competition.
Yep. Best case scenario is you bring in a stud and then Chubb actually rebounds and you don't have to run him into the dirt and you can just run it down people's throat. That's
Put the worst one on the practice squad. All right. Yeah, Chubb, Ford, and 2 rookies. Agreed. That's where I'm at. One of them, maybe that last rookie ends up on the practice squad if all things go well for Chubb.
Yep.
Let's get out of here. 2 hours in. Good stuff. Big case, dog. Senior Bowl case. Appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out with us for 2 long hours. Worst case, best case, Senior Bowl, Casey Knnamon, all the cases covered tonight. And hit like and subscribe when you are on your way in or out to atone for your sins. Thank you guys all so much. No, if you leave, I have to talk to my wife. Fumble.
Me too.
2 hours. Man, I tried to help you out, brother. That's putting in work there. So appreciate you guys all hanging out with us. You guys make the show what it is. Your participation is everything. Get over to the OBR right now. The link is in the description below. If you're not a VIP member, become one. And make sure you can get in on that breaking news always. Pat Shea, what's up, my guy? Thank you. Thank you guys all for participating in All Eyes on Cleveland. Keep it locked at the OBR. Any parting words, Case?
No, tomatoes suck. I'm happy the Senior Bowl happened, and I'm just looking forward to breaking down more prospects and bringing insights to you guys.
Tomato, Ray Romano.
Print
Casey
this
Knnamon,
shirt.
Anti-tomato. The spam bet's in place. I'm going to go read this, what I'm expecting to be Jackson Dart news.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that it is.
With that, we're going to get out of here. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for tuning in. For Casey Knnamon, my name is Brad Ward. We are out.